What's going on, everyone, and welcome to episode 163 of the ARC Junkies Podcast. Today is Monday, March 8th. Happy International Women's Day, and a huge shout out to all the female ARC Junkie listeners out there. I hope everyone had a great weekend and y'all are ready to kick this week off strong. I had a blast this weekend. I finally made it out to the Florida Association of Blacksmith Artists. This is something I've been wanting to do for a long time now. It is essentially a group of, blacksmith artists or hobbyists, and they meet up once a month to build something really cool. There's like a little period of instruction. So yesterday we built a pair of tongs, and, they take you in there and they're like, okay, here's a couple of steps. Everybody go out there to the forge, heat everything up, beat it into place, and then we'll regroup here for the next step. And they kind of just walk you through the process of, regardless of your skill level, how to build a set of tongs. So I'm not sure what they're doing going forward as far as different projects, but it's really cool. I think next month we're going to go ahead and finish the tongs, but then they'll probably have another project for us to do. It's really cool. It's like, I think $30 for the year to become a member. There's like a little, lunch break or whatever. Everybody brings like a potluck and, y'all sit down and eat. It was really, really cool. Like I said, I've been wanting to do it for a couple of years now, and my schedule's just always been a big conflict. So I finally carved out some time, for me to go do something that I wanted to do. And I brought my son along, and one of my buddies from work, he's the one that kind of got me back into it and got me interested in going back out there. And the kids had a great time. My son got to build a Harry Potter wand out of a railroad spike, so that was pretty cool. He's all jazzed up about that, and it was just an awesome time. And I start spring break this week, so that's going to give me some time to catch up on my honey-do list, work on some small projects around the house, some stuff I got in the garage, and hopefully somewhere in between the mix, I'll be able to find some time to relax just a little bit. I know the following week I'm taking my family out to Universal and SeaWorld because my kids, their spring break starts the following week. So ours kind of don't align. So we kind of had to get creative with our schedules so we could spend some time together with the family, a little bit more than a weekend. So I think that's all I've got going on right now. We're going to get into today's show, but first a quick word from our supporters. Today's show, the ARC Junkies Podcast, is brought to you by Up & Smoke Welding Apparel. Up & Smoke Welding Apparel is uniquely and truly made in North America. All of their materials touch an American or Canadian hand before going into the products that they manufacture. Each item is made in Canada. Being local is in their values and their DNA. What sets Up & Smoke apart from other FR gear is their designs are built specifically for welders, and they're tested by welders, and they use materials that last longer than anything else on the market. They're a premium brand delivering a premium product with an option to buy now and pay later, which allows you to pay for your order over the course of 6 weeks with 4 easy payments. They also launched a premium membership where members can get access to free shipping, free gear, new products, and bundle discounts. Up & Smoke is super excited for International Women's Day and to celebrate the achievements of women in welding. They are now launching a female welding jacket in collaboration with welder, professional monster truck driver, Cynthia Gauthier. Head on over to their Instagram and check out their channel for more details. We're also brought to you by Rockmount Research and Alloys. I've been using their products for a few months now, and I'm thoroughly impressed. Can't believe I didn't know about their products sooner. They make some of the coolest welding electrodes and accessories that you never knew existed. They make welding rods specifically for maintenance welding. So heavy equipment, manufacturing facilities, hard facing, you name it. If it's a repair you're looking to do, they got you covered. Their Brutus rod is designed to weld dissimilar metals together. I'm sure everybody's familiar with 7018 stick electrodes and 70S6 for MIG and TIG wires. Those rods are great for initial fabrication, but once those parts have been in service for a while, and you can't get to them to clean the material because of limited access and the parts are covered in grease and paint, they're probably not your best option. For something like this, check out their Tartan B electrodes that get deep penetration over dirt and oil. This rod is great in all positions and even works great for welding on galvanized material. You gotta check out all their great products. Head on over to rockmountwelding.com and check out all their welding products, tools, and accessories, and like me, you'll wonder how you got along before without them. You can give them a follow on Instagram as well, at Rockmount Welding, and tell them that the ARC Junkie sent you. We're also brought to you by Everlast Welders. I'm currently running the 255 EXT for all my at-home TIG welding, and their Cyclone 200E for all my MIG welding, and both machines have been running great. You can pick up your own Everlast Welder today at everlastwelders.com. They have a machine to fit every skill level and budget. Whether it's the MTS 275 multi-process machine for that small business, or their Power Arc machines that you can practice TIG at home. They also sell generators, so that you can make sure you have power off-site and at home in case of an emergency. And what shop would be complete without a plasma cutter? Whether it's handheld or mechanized cutting for CNC applications, Everlast has you covered. Swing over to everlastwelders.com and check out their full line of various welding machines today. And don't forget to use code word ARCJunkies in the comments section so you can get that free Nova foot pedal and TIG torch upgrade when you buy any machines that comes with a stock foot pedal. All right, let's go ahead and get into today's episode with welder and professional monster truck driver Cynthia Gauthier out of Quebec, Canada. Fire up your machines, drop your hoods, and turn me up 5.
You're listening to the ARC Junkies Podcast. Helping you make every weld better than your last with each episode. And now your host, Jason Becker.
All right, so ladies and gentlemen, joining me today is monster truck driver Cynthia Gauthier. So you're a hard woman to track down, but you're very busy, which is great.
Yeah, my life has been so crazy this year with the COVID. It's just been, I think I have like 5 jobs in the same time, and I'm trying to take some time for me, and it's just been crazy, but it's good. I prefer to be busy than to be boring.
I'm the same way, and luckily over this weekend I actually found I made some time for me. I said it during the intro that I actually got to go out and do a little bit of blacksmithing. So like my life is wide open all the time from the time I get out of bed until the time I go to sleep on Sunday. And it's just wide open. So I think trying to find time, for yourself is very important, and probably very similar to you. That's one of the things we probably neglect most often. I have a hard time saying no to people. So when people ask me if I can do something, yes, I can, and then I just figure out a way to make it happen. But this weekend I finally took some time for myself and went out and got to do a little bit of blacksmithing, made a pair of tongs, so it was kind of neat.
Yeah, what's kind of funny, it's like for me, when I want to do something for me, it's being in the shop and build stuff for me. That's my me time usually, or sport. Yeah. Those are the 2 things that I love to do for my free time.
And you do quite a bit of sports. I mean, you started off with dirt bikes, right?
Yeah, exactly. I was always really into sport when I was in high school and all that thing, but I started doing dirt bike when I was 18 years old. So it was kind of a late start, but it's never too late, I guess. And motocross was a big part of my life for probably 5 years, but I got a lot of injury. And after that, I got into bicycle, and I got into snowboarding and a lot of sport that does not have engine, but I did buggy too. I raced buggy for a while just before monster truck.
So what kind of buggies were you running? Was it like I'm familiar with the World of Outlaws, and I seen on your website it's very similar type of vehicle. So is that like off-road or on-road vehicle that you were running with the buggy?
Yeah, it was the off-road. I was racing with Torque Series. It was a 1600 little buggy, so it's like a Volkswagen engine in it. So it was pretty fun.
What are you hitting on top end?
I don't even know. They're not that fast, to be honest, but it's more the thrill of shifting, and you have like an end brake that would only brake like the right or the left side. So it was really tricky because it's open wheel, so you actually don't want to hit anybody because it's pretty gnarly when you hit somebody. So it's a fun race.
So how did you transition from the buggies into? How did you get into monster truck driving? Because I think that's so freaking cool. And I want to say the first time I seen you was 2015, 2016, because we go to Monster Jam every year down here in Orlando, except for last year and this year. I missed both because last year was, COVID. And then this year was, last year was scheduling. This year was like COVID because you had to they said you had to buy a pod in addition to the ticket. But then I found out, because my buddy went with his kid, that you didn't need a pod. It was just the seating arrangements. So we missed it this year, but I didn't get to go. But how did you get into monster truck racing? Because I want to say we've seen you, like I said, 2015, 2016 in the Monster Mutt Dalmatian there in Orlando.
Yeah, well, it's a funny story. I mean, I did dirt bike, like I said, and I got injured, so I had to change sport, and I did the buggy. And while I was racing buggy, I started working for a team. I was actually helping them on the road. Pretty much, I was helping the most that I could. And one show, it was not really my passion, to be honest. And more I was getting into the sport and more I was falling in love with it. And one time I was in Las Vegas and I was looking into the track, watching the race. And I was like, you know what? I want to be part of this. I want to be driving. It's just, the passion just got so big. So I started talking to some of the bus, directory there, and I was just like, hey, you know what? I speak French, and I know you guys travel all around the world, and I'm a good driver, so maybe it could be a good mix to have a French Canadian in the Monster Jam series. So they were really interested, but there's so many people that want the same thing that I did, so they let me try. And, I was a really good fit, but it actually took 2 years before I got my seat. I had to work really hard. I kept calling, I kept emailing them, and I finally got my seat. And it's just been a crazy journey from there.
So talk to me about, because I've never been on the inside of a monster truck. How does that work? I mean, single seat in the middle, I'm guessing, just from my perspective up there in the nosebleed section. But I mean, tell me about, like, what are you sitting in there? Is it a cage? And how do you operate? How do you manipulate this thing? Because it's freaking amazing.
It's pretty big. So the first time I sat in a monster truck, so you're really in the center. You're actually driving your front wheel with the steering wheel, but you actually have a little joystick that control the back wheel. So it's kind of funny because you drive with your two hand, not on the steering. So it's pretty different. We have 2-speed. You start on the first gear and really soon you shift second gear, and you usually stay second gear. Some people downshift, but most of the time you stay second gear. But yeah, the power is so quick. As soon as you press on that pedal, the power is there and it goes really quick, really fast. I mean, they're really heavy, but the power we get is just amazing, and you react really quick. So I think it's a lot of skill because you can drive more with your front steering and you can drive a little bit more with your rear steering. So every driver drives really differently. Okay,
that's I was wondering how that thing operates, because you see some of them with the back end kind of steering around, and I was wondering if it was all linked to the steering wheel, but like you said, it's like you got like a little joystick that kind of operates the rear end of the vehicle.
Yeah, exactly. And what's funny is when you see a Monster Jam truck, that usually the back wheel are stuck on one side is because the rear steering broke.
Oh, okay.
So there's not much you can do. Sometimes you can manually like control it, but sometimes you can't. It's actually broke. So it's there's a lot into it, and usually you learn from doing mistakes. So you want to try something new, and you try it. It did not work, so you don't do it again. But it's a lot of, you try, you test, you see how it goes, but we don't get to practice. So it's a lot into, everything goes into the track.
So there's no practicing. So you guys basically show up at the start of the series without having practiced over the summer, and you just jump in and kind of hope for the best through the series?
Exactly. I mean, Monster Jam started Monster Jam University in Paxton, actually, a couple years ago. So the new driver get to go there. They get to train. I went there for, I probably went twice. So we do get to practice, but very rarely. Okay.
Yeah, because that's a big piece of like financial equipment. Because they're probably millions of dollars, and they weigh about 6 tons, and they go ridiculously fast for the amount of, the distance that you have. I mean, you guys are hauling ass, especially when you're coming around the corners and hitting the jumps and all that. So I imagine it's got to be, if you do want to practice, you'd have to buy a monster truck on your own and buy enough area and then fix it every time you made a jump or a wrong turn.
Yeah, I mean the Monster Jam truck are actually like they say around like $250,000, but it's not really the monster truck that is expensive. It's to run it because we break stuff all the time. I mean, it's actually the only sport that we actually crash in purpose. Yeah. Pretty much every sport are trying to not crash, but if you want to win in freestyle, you got to make those wow moments. So in racing, you don't want to crash, but in freestyle, I mean, you want those crazy moments. So sometimes you crash in purpose to have those special moments.
That was what I was wondering, because like in freestyle, you guys, I mean, like the more you break your truck, the higher the points you're getting. It seems like, because that's when the fans go crazy, is when you're losing tires and stuff's falling off and you're just sitting there in your roll cage. When you're done, you know, that's probably going to max out your points.
I mean, you're trying to not break your truck
till the very end,
but you're trying to make those crazy moves that you're on one wheel, and sometimes you go on your top of the truck and you go back on your four wheel. So you're trying to not break it, because most of the time when you break it, they don't let you finish the freestyle, because they do have a radio that they can disconnect your truck and the truck will shut down. So they have that control, you know, so they have that safety. So you don't want to break, because usually when you break, they'll shut your truck down. So you're trying to keep the truck on one piece, but actually have those crazy freestyle.
So do you all have like multiple trucks? Is there 2 trucks for a series? That way, depending on how much damage you do, you can still make it to the next race while they're repairing the other truck?
You only have one truck. Oh, wow. So the crew guy are actually what's the most important. I mean, the crew guy we got with Monster Jam, they just work so hard, and they always make sure most of the time the truck make it for every event. And it's something sometimes the fan doesn't get to see much, but if you see how the crew guy help each other, and how, like, you know, I had a show a year ago that my wheel broke twice, so I only had one spare, and after that I was done, and I really want to make it for freestyle. My family was there, and I actually Dave Spark from Diesel Brother actually let me borrow his wheel after his freestyle, so I got to go back and finish my freestyle. So it was it's a big family, and as a racer you want to race against the best. And as a racer, I want to beat them, not because the truck broke. I want to beat them because I was better. Mm-hmm. So that's why we want every truck to make it to the event. We don't want people to just miss the race because something broke. So it's a big family. They work really hard, and it's amazing how our crew guys are good. I mean, they're a fabricator. They know mechanics. I mean, parts are heavy. They get dirty. I mean, they're amazing.
I was wondering that, because like if you've got that competitive spirit, that if everybody, all the monster truck drivers kind of got along and hung out, but then on race day, you know, still, like you said, still able to help you out. Like you said, Dave, you know, he did his competition, then he loaned you his wheels so that you can go out and compete. That's really cool.
I beat him. That's the worst thing. His family was there too, and I beat him. I won freestyle that day with his wheel. And you know what? We are happy when other people win. I mean, we're really competitive. We want to win, but when we know somebody deserves it more than us, I mean, we're happy for them. And it's a fun competition. As far as, like, I do get mad sometimes. I mean, we actually put pressure on us. We want to perform. I mean, my first couple of years, I was not as good as I wanted, and the last 2 years been like so great. I'm getting better and better, and I'm getting a lot of victory, but we do get frustrated sometimes, and the score are not always the way we want, but it's still, at the end of the day, the most important is that the fans got a good event. They had a good show, and that's the best for me. I mean, the fans are, I want to see them happy. That's all I want.
So was that the world finals when you beat him, when you did like that? It was like a 4.5 story jump. You got like 45 something feet in the air. I think I've seen the video on your Instagram.
Yeah, that was amazing, because so they actually picked a couple drivers that love to go big on jump, and I was so happy they picked me. So I was going against like Todd LeDuc, Tom Mans, I mean, some of the best drivers, and it was kind of funny because we were hitting a metal ramp and we never hit metal ramps. So it was the first time we actually had a metal ramp that would not change. Everybody had the same ramp. We had the same distance. And most of us, we had the same truck. So it was really tricky. The only thing we could change is our gear. We could make little tricks on our engine. I mean, so our crew guy was a big part of the victory. So when we did the practice, we had the chance to hit that metal ramp the day before. We only got twice. I think I hit it once or twice before the competition. And so we could make adjustment. And you know what? My crew guy told me, you know what? Your truck is ready. Like, if you don't win, it's all on you because that truck is ready to win. And I had that pressure. I was like, okay. My crew guy is Scott, and he's a great mechanic. And I was like, okay, so my truck's ready. I know I can do it. Like, and I don't know, when it happened, it was just a crazy moment. I just felt like I was, the king of that mountain. Just like I was just like on top of the world.
So what was your strategy going in? Just like as soon as it's green, punch it?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, everybody had that same thinking of just like punch it, but a lot of people hit the brake. I mean, you do need to hit the brake to bring back the front end, but I was just like, you know what? I'm just going to not touch the brake and hope for the best. And it did work. But as far as like the technique, usually you have to hit the brake to bring your front end and try to hit as high as you can. But I just hope my front end would just go as high as I could without touching the brake, and it did work. I mean, every score was really close, so just a little bit would make the huge difference. And I actually came back on the 4-wheel too, and did not do much damage on the truck, and it was just perfect.
So now the inside of the truck, like I imagine you're in a 5-point harness, and it looks like you guys have like a Hans restraint system, because I watched the video where you made that jump and like the truck's going crazy, or it might have been a different video, but the truck's rumbling and tumbling. And I mean, you're just in there just completely still, like you're driving down the interstate, just cruising. So there's not a whole lot of shock to the body, it seems.
You know what? Monster Jam works so hard for us to have the best safety. I mean, we pretty much have the same safety as NASCAR. I have a 7-point, so I'm attached at 7th place. My legs are attached, like my upper legs are attached, and I don't move much. If I do move, it's because I did not put my seatbelt right. So you don't move. It's kind of funny. It's like your head can only watch what you see. Like, it cannot move, it cannot turn. It just, you're really strapped down really good. And it's what's kind of fun, because you're not scared of getting hurt. You're just kind of concentrate on doing your competition. I mean, some people do get hurt. It's still an extreme sport, but we do have some of the best safety out there. And most of the time I finish my competition and I'm in one piece and I'm ready to go for next day.
Now, does that piece that you're sitting in, is that like independently suspended from the truck, or is it like all built into the frame?
So the body is actually a mold that they do. It's a fiberglass body. They actually bolt down everything on my metal cage. So it's 2-piece, but bolt together. So, I mean, after a couple impact, it do start breaking down. I mean, it's fiberglass, but most of the time we get to repair it. Sometimes we duct tape it. I mean, we do everything we can to make it look good. But after a couple of crashes, usually they have to change it. I mean, those are really expensive. They're all it's all handmade. Most of the trucks are even painted by hand. So there's a lot of work into it. So I do respect my equipment. So I'm trying the best to keep it in one piece. But I do crash it a couple times.
Right. Now, do you have like cameras in there that you can actually see what's going on the back part of your vehicle, so you guys aren't running into things unnecessarily?
Some drivers do have a backup camera, but most of us, we don't. So our crew guy are pretty much our eyes. So we have radio. We talk to our crew guy all the time, and he will back you up. So it's like, back up, stop. So you make sure you don't hit anything. So it's good to know your right and your left, because if you don't, you'll pretty much back up on something. But our crew guy it's 50-50. I mean, without my crew guy, I could not perform the way I do. And a cool thing too about a Monster Jam truck is that every trucks are a little bit different, but most of the time they're the same. So when you're competing, you're competing against the same machine. So, it's all on you. It's all about your skill. And most of the time your crew guys do a good job about maintenance and everything.
So what you're saying is like all the monster trucks, they're pretty much the same chassis, same motor?
Most of it. I mean, some independent company, they do have like a different chassis, but more we go and more we have the same chassis. So it's kind of cool because, you're competing against the same Monster Jam truck. So it's making it more fair, I guess. Everybody have the same engine, but some people don't. I mean, the Diesel brother definitely don't have the same engine.
Yeah, they're the only diesel one in there.
But I mean, their engine is powerful, but I mean, there's other issue as far as like you have to cool it down. The crew guy have to put a lot of ice after racing and stuff like that. So there's good and bad in everything. So
that's what I was wondering, because I've seen like Max D, his truck looks, and not just because of the fiberglass mold, but his truck looks like it's built completely different than any other. That one, he's got a sick truck. Yeah.
His truck is completely different. He's not sitting in the middle of the truck too. He's more on one side. The way his body is, he doesn't see really good too when he look forward. He actually have to look more on his floor to see. There's plexiglass on the side so he can watch, down to his feet better. So that truck is completely different. The engine is usually different. So his truck is really, all the Maxi are usually more different than us, but most of the trucks are.
Do you guys ever get to drive each other's trucks, like once everybody goes home?
I wish. I mean, sometimes I do get to drive other truck when I go overseas, and I kind of like that because you try like different suspension setting, and you try like, sometimes you will move your shifter at a different position, and you're like, oh, I kind of like that, Most of the time we don't kind of play around and try things. We kind of like do it one setup. And I mean, I do play with my suspension setting, but it's kind of cool to try other people's setting. And you're like, oh, next time I kind of want the same thing. And it's kind of fun when you can drive, but we don't get to drive a lot of different trucks.
Okay.
I think I probably drove like 6 or 7 different trucks in my life.
That's 6 or 7 more than I've been able to drive.
That's good.
So what was it like the first time you got in a monster truck to like, I guess, a test run? I mean, did you have to do like a test drive before they brought you on the team, or?
Yeah. Every driver pretty much had a test drive before they go into a competition. So my first time was in North Carolina at the Gravedigger shop. I was like so nervous. My English was even worse than it is right now. So I was barely speaking in English. I was super nervous, but I was so excited. And the team there was just really helpful. They gave me a lot of tricks. And what's funny is like you have to be the kind of driver that is in control, but you have to look like the driver that is not scared of going big. And so it's kind of like that middle that you want to be in control, but not scared of going big. So I did my first like donut there. It was a sand track. So it was kind of like, it was really fun to drive into it because if you do crash, sand kind of give up a little bit on the impact. So it was really fun. It was a 3-day test drive, and I think I did pretty good. But when you get to drive at Tom Mance in North Carolina, and not in North Carolina, in Paxton, that's a completely different track. That's more a hard pack track, and the jump were really steep, and every jumps are big, and that was a completely different story there.
Right. So does Dennis Anderson like have his own little track in North Carolina to play around with? Because I would imagine like over the years he's probably collected some of his trucks and he does it for fun.
So he doesn't really have a track that he can actually practice, but they do have like one jump if they need test drive a suspension or something, they can, just run it down there. But they don't do really much practice there anymore. They used to, but not anymore. It's all in Paxton, and it's all in Paxton now.
Really, I had no idea that like Monster Jam would practice in Pakistan. It's just like you'd think that they'd come out here to the desert in Nevada or like right outside of Utah or something and set something up.
Well, Tom Mintz is kind of like the teacher from Monster Jam, so it's a great fit to have a track there. Actually, Tom know how to build a track. He's pretty good with machine, but they usually have dirt crew go there and they rebuild the track every year. The crew guy there is really good. They have a body shop there, so they're pretty good to do everything. I know Monster Jam are trying to have the test track in Florida. I think they do have one, but I never got to go there, but maybe one day.
Oh yeah, please bring it to Florida. I want to go check that out. That'd be kind of neat.
Yeah, really.
No, that's really cool. I had no idea, and it's really cool looking at it from this angle because, like I said, I've watched a bunch of them. They're at the Citrus Bowl. I guess they got some other name for it now, but I always refer to it as the Citrus Bowl. I think it's Camping World Stadium or something like that.
Yes.
But it's really cool because I had no idea about a lot of the stuff that you brought up, that how the trucks are very similar, if not the exact same. It's just the body styles that are changing. That's really cool.
So yeah, and that's kind of how I got into welding because having a chassis, every chassis were a little bit different before. I actually have an older chassis. I think I might get a new one in next year, and next year I might have a new chassis, but it's really important. I mean, we get so many impacts. So if we do crash, if they do a weld repair, I mean, it's our life. The weld need to be good. The cage need to be repaired good. And they do have to check the cage often because they do have, because it's our life. I mean, if there's a crack or anything, they need to do the repair right, and that's kind of how I got into welding.
All right, we'll be right back with Cynthia, but first we're going to go ahead and take a quick commercial break. This segment is brought to you by Strong Hand Tools. Now more than ever, it's important to have the right tools on hand to set up work more accurately and efficiently for greater productivity and higher quality welding and fabrication in both projects big and small. The new products at Strong Hand Tool will help you create a safer and better organized work area while giving you new options and holding and clamping down your work. You can check them out today at stronghandtools.com/ArcJunkies. This segment is also brought to you by AHP Welders. If you're looking to get into welding and operating on a small budget, check out ahpwelds.com. You can pick up a machine for under $1,000. I was pleasantly surprised at the performance these machines put out for such an affordable price. I see these machines being great for hobbyists, makers, and students practicing at home. You can see all their great price machines at ahpwelds.com. All right, let's get back into the show. So do you get to weld on your own chassis now?
I don't. My crew guy is really good, so I kind of trust him, but I like to know I can check and I can make sure everything's right.
So that's what got you into welding, is just like the kind of watching how they go through and perform the welds and stuff?
Exactly. Yeah. It's from I had a crash and my cage broke. It was right on top of my head. And I was really kind of nervous about hey, what about if his weld is not right? What about if I crash again and I cannot really, it's my life. And actually I did a class with Lincoln a week, and it was fun because it was a motorsport class, and they were actually talking about, the NASCAR crash and how a Dale Earnhardt crash and how they inspect his cage and everything. And it was a week of learning so many things. And I actually got to learn how to check a weld and to make sure there's a great penetration of the weld. So it was awesome.
So you went up to their facility in Cleveland?
Yeah, exactly. I did a full week there, and that's before I even had a welder. It was just kind of like a crazy thing that I was like, you know what? I need something new, a new challenge in my life. And I was like, I want to learn how to weld. My dad kind of know how to weld. I mean, he's stick weld, but not that great. But so I was kind of like, it was a new challenge for me. So I did a full week there, and I just fell in love. I discovered a new passion, and it just became like something big in my life. And after the week at Lincoln, I actually bought my first welder. It was a little 200 TIG from Lincoln, and I was just in my little garage in Florida, just playing around with a bunch of scrap pieces that I would bring back from shows, stuff that I would break from my truck. And I was just playing around, and I started doing the welding rows. That was my first project. My second project was building my welding table. I did my first welding table. It was heavy, really heavy. And it just started from there. I did a couple of projects, but it was fun. It was just from a little challenge from becoming a big part of my life.
Right. So what's your favorite process?
TIG.
You like TIG?
Definitely. Yeah, definitely. I mean, I'm not that bad with MIG. I just feel like with TIG, I have more control. I know more how I can play with my pedal. I feel like I have way more control than MIG. For me, it's like I kind of have to trust the gun to have the great setting I feel like, I don't know. I feel with TIG, I can just control how the heat goes into aluminum, and I love to weld like stainless and all those crazy materials. So
I think TIG welding is fun. It's probably, I would say, similar to being in the cockpit of a monster truck, because you've got so many, you've got a lot more control over it. Like you were saying, you're messing with the foot pedal. You got the TIG torch, you got the filler metal, so you have a lot of things going on at once, and then everything just kind of meets right there at the arc.
Yeah, exactly. It's funny because I heard one of the driver one time at an interview. He's like, "Hey, how does it feel to be, to drive a monster jam truck?" And the guy was like, "You know what? It's just being into a boxing competition, because you have to be. They're just nonstop action, and you have to be you have to react really quick, and that's how it is when you're driving. Everything goes so fast, and you have to move from your hand, from your steering to your joystick to your shifter there's just nonstop action. And it's kind of the same thing when you weld. You have to be really concentrate, and you have a lot of things in one hand, another hand, your feet. So, and you have a helmet. So,
right. So what's your favorite part about the welding?
The best part, everything, just when you're done with a project and you build it from scratch. You just create something that is just, everything is made by you. It's just, I think it's special. I think it's, you can buy probably for cheaper if you go to Walmart, but it's usually not as strong, not as good. It's just a good feeling that you're just building stuff by yourself.
Right. And I seen that little, the excavator that you did.
Yeah.
That was pretty neat. So, I mean, like, was that like a kit, or did you have that cut out professionally, or how did that whole thing come about?
So that was just before I got my Torchmate table. So actually, one of my friends in Canada shipped the whole thing kind of already cut in his plasma, and I had to put it together. But it was a cool project because, I mean, I'm a pretty good welder, but as a fabricator, I mean, I feel like I have to learn. There's so much to learn, and it's nonstop. I mean, my dad is not a fabricator, so I had to teach myself a lot, watching a lot of YouTube. And I don't have a lot of equipment as far as fabrication. Mm-hmm. So, just binding something or, like cutting stuff. I mean, now I have a plasma, but before I had to do pretty much everything by myself, kind of like, how I'm gonna, put this in this position, and I would just make it work. I sometimes friends, I had a lot of friends that kind of give me advice, but it was a cool project. It looked easy when you look at it, but it was actually a lot of work.
Mm-hmm. And it's an expensive hobby because, like you were saying, especially when you get into fabrication and building stuff, you got to get, you need a saw. Then you definitely have a grinder because, we're going to grind everything to clean it, and then, prep it. And, once we get done, you're going to clean off some of the welds. Some of them are going to be exposed, but some of them you want to kind of hide and blend. Then like getting into like a fabrication table or a fixture table, there's just so many different possibilities when you get into fabrication.
Yeah.
It's expensive. You can get it.
Yeah, it is. I mean, doing stuff by yourself, it can get really expensive, but sometimes it's the opposite. Sometimes you can save a lot of money, do it by yourself. But I mean, we do get, as I was talking about the pressure you can get when you drive a monster jam truck. Well, I do get pressure too as about welding because you see all those crazy, beautiful weld online and on Instagram. And sometimes it's like if you want to have such pretty weld all the time, I mean, it do take time. I mean, you have to prep really good. You have to it does take, I mean, for my parts, I feel like it takes a lot of time sometimes to have those perfect weld. And sometimes you just want to get it done. And the welds are good, but they're not as pretty as if you would have taken maybe like those 10 extra minutes. So sometimes I want everything to look so perfect. And if it's not, it's like I don't feel like grinding it. And I don't know. So it's sometimes it does give a little pressure of I want everything to be so perfect. I'm a little bit have that issue with I want everything to look perfect. And but
so I make it work. Kind of a perfectionist?
A little bit. I feel like...
No, that's good. And that's the cool thing about welding that I always talk about is like, you can always make your next weld better than your last. And,
exactly.
And there's a lot of people out there that do the same process day in and day out on the same material, same thickness. They've been doing it for years. They got it dialed in and it's beautiful. But like when you jump from especially one type of material to the next, or one thickness of material to the next, or one process to the next, it takes a while to get dialed back in. And I was talking with a buddy earlier today. We both teach at the same school. And we said, that's the one thing that sucks about being a welding instructor is like for, 6 to 10 weeks, I get really good at stick. And then for the next 6 to 10 weeks, I get really good at MIG, but my stick game's, suffering a little bit. And then we get into flux core. And then it's like, my stick game's even worse now, but I'm really good at flux core. And then jump into aluminum MIG, and then you get into TIG. And, by the time you get all the way into TIG, like your stick game, you got to go back and revisit it. So if you're not doing the same process all the time, you kind of lose I guess a little bit of the attention to detail, some of the tricks of the trade that you were in the zone when you were running stick weld or MIG welding, but now that you're TIG welding, it's completely different. You got different settings, different base metal prep. There's just so much that goes into it.
It do. And like, what the funny thing is like, when I started doing weld, I was TIG weld and MIG weld. And my dad, I went home and my dad was like, you're not a welder if you don't know how to stick weld. And I was like, okay, let me try. So he bring his old Lincoln welder that is still working. I don't know how old that thing is, but it's still working great. Bring it outside. He bring me his stick and he was like, go, just weld. And he did not like told me anything. He was just like, make it work. And I was like, okay. And you know how it is the first time you stick weld and it's just stick and they're like, what? And like after like 10 try, he was like, you just have to do like you're lighting up like a little fire thing. And I was like, okay. And I got it and it worked. And I was like, dang, it's so different, but I love trying new stuff and I love like learning. So it was kind of like a funny moment with my dad, my dad teaching me how to stick weld. Mm-hmm. And I got to teach him how to MIG weld and TIG weld. So it's kind of cool. It's my special moment with my dad. But it's I'm definitely a better welder than him.
Does he know that?
No, I won't tell him.
Don't tell him that. Hopefully he won't listen to the episode. That's the one thing I always start people off at stick welding, because I say if you can learn how to stick weld, you can learn any other process, because that's the part where you're going to need the most. You're going to learn the most patience is with stick welding, and if you can outlast stick welding, you'll be able to get into any one of the other processes, very smooth, because everything else is going to come easy. And I've heard a lot of people say that they teach MIG welding first, just to kind of build the confidence, and it's like, no, I'd rather build the patience first. So if you can learn stick, you can learn any other process.
It's funny because I went to Lincoln like twice for classes, and I went to the motorsport. So you actually get to try a bunch of materials. So I got to try like titanium, stainless, aluminum, like a lot, like I don't know how many, probably 10 different material. And they actually let you try like everything you want. So it's fun. Like you have a bunch of thickness, a bunch of material. And so when I got out of there, I'm like, I can weld anything. But after that, I had to learn how to weld everything in all different positions, because it seems easy when you're on the table and everything is just perfect. But when you actually have to weld in like a little space and you barely see what you're doing, and that's where the challenge is.
Yeah, no, that's a fun part. I've always wanted to take the motorsports course. Who taught you while you were up there?
It was Carl.
Carl.
His name. He actually
Carl
I think
Hose.
he just retired. Yeah,
Carl Hose. He's a great guy.
And there's Charlie too there that is teaching. He's really good. I mean, they teach with so much passion that it's fun. And they love motorsports. So for me, it was perfect fit. And I was, okay, so a little funny thing. When I went to take my class the first time, I actually went there and I did not know how to weld and never touched anything close from a welder. And I took my class thinking they would teach me everything from the beginning, but I went to a really advanced class without knowing. I mean, like I said, my English is not that great. And the first class, you go on into the class, they talk, and I can barely understand. So I was like, And after half of the class, they're like, okay, let's go weld. And they kind of tell you a little bit how it works, but they're like, okay. And I just look at the teacher and I'm like, I don't even know how to hold the torch. I don't even know how to weld. He's like, do you know you're in the advanced class? And I was like, oops. And he's like, we'll make it work. So he took maybe an extra hour with me, just teaching me how to hold my torch and everything and how to feed my rod. And you know what? It's funny because at the end of the week, you actually have a test to have a little certificate. And the test, it was a tube T, and they pull it in half and they check if there's penetration in your weld. And it's a pretty cool test. And I was so nervous because I was like, it's the first time I even weld and I have to pass that test because I'm really competition. So I actually did. My piece worked, it was a full penetration, and it had to break to a certain moment. If it breaks too early, it's not strong enough. Mm-hmm. So it worked. I was so impressed. I was kind of surprised too, because I was like, I'm not sure it's going to work, but I really want to make it work. I practiced in that week and it worked. I had my diploma and I went back to learn how. I did a couple of tests like that. I went a couple of times to get different tests, and it worked. You do have to practice though, because it's not always easy. Sometimes when you have to weld upside down and in all those kind of position, but
yeah, it's definitely a perishable skill if you don't stay up to date with it.
Yeah.
So I know your instructor Charlie LaRicci, because he comes down here for Sun and Fun every year, and I actually get to see him for the weekend and weld with him, and really cool, super cool dude. Every time I go up to Lincoln, I used to go up every year for training at the Lincoln facility. And they're just a great group of guys, really good instructors. They really know their stuff. That's where I've learned a lot of the stuff that I teach to my students. So you're definitely in good hands when you're up there. Are you planning on going to any more classes while you're up there?
Yeah, I was actually supposed to go right before, because, I'm in Canada, and right now it's really hard to travel with all the what's going on in the world. But I was supposed to go last March. I was supposed to go in Arizona for a class with Torchmate.
Okay.
They're kind of like the same company.
Yep.
So I was supposed to go there because I want to learn the CAD, to learn how to design in the computer. That's a whole different skill, and I don't know anything about computers. So that was kind of a challenge for me, and I want a Torchmate table for so long, but at the same time, I wanted to know how to use it. So I actually took the class. I bought my flight ticket, and the class was still going on, but my flight, the whole trouble with the COVID, so I had to cancel the whole thing. But they made it work. So the funny thing, I was super sad about missing that class. And a month later, they reached out to me. They're like, you can still do your class, but online. And it was actually better because I'm a slow learner, especially with the English and the French. So I had the chance to do my class online at my own pace, and I got to practice. And the only thing is you cannot really send the piece that you're trying, you send them a picture, so it still worked. Mm-hmm. And it was great. I did a couple other class later with the teacher there. His name is Iggy.
I know Iggy. Iggy's the one that taught me how to run Torchmate.
And it's funny because I love welding, but the table became like such a big part of my life. I just have so much fun like using it, and now like playing it in the CAD program and see like something I designed getting cut. I don't know. It's just kind of fun. Like I did some fire pit that I was able to make logos in it, and I just have so many projects. I'm just missing time. Like I feel days were way longer than they are.
Having access to a plasma cutter is definitely a game changer, because you can just build so much cool stuff on there. It's ridiculous.
It is, and it's funny how much time it can save you. Like, I mean, it is an investment, but it's an investment that pay off if you're actually a welder or fabricator, because you're building a table. You need those little tap at the end of the table, and usually you'll cut it by hand and you'll drill the holes. But there on the table, you don't even have to draw it. They actually have so many design already made, and you just say, I want a square with 4 holes at this distance, and it's like, it cut the hole. You don't have to use a drill, because I'm not that good with drill anyway. But I always break the little thing on the tip. I always break it.
It's definitely a time saver. And I mean, we use it quite a bit in our school just to build stuff for the students, to teach them fabrication. So like you're saying, you want to cut out a base plate, or I cut out a bunch of wedges, like, because I showed them how to use a dog and a wedge, and they're like, oh man, that's super cool. And I was like, oh, you know what's cooler now? Watch this. We went over to the Torchmate table. I threw up a 1/2-inch plate of steel and just cut everybody out their own little wedge. So everybody got to take a piece with them. But I mean, it's really super, especially, and I'll be 100% honest, I'm not a huge fan of the Torchmate CAD CAM system. Their drawing software it's got some stuff that I think could be a little bit user friendly. But like once Iggy kind of because I taught myself for 2 years how to use that table. And then when Iggy came in, he did like a 3-day class for us and a bunch of educators down here in Florida. And after that, I was like, well, damn, that makes things so much more easier. And they used to do the Torchmate series on YouTube, which was pretty cool. I'd watch those. I think they came out like every Wednesday. So I'd always watch those guys, doing stuff and building tables. And there's just, especially if you're an artist or, fabricator, having a CNC plasma table or access to one, it's awesome. I'd love to get one for the house, but it's like you said, it's not affordable for everybody. I mean, I think later on down the road, once lasers pick up and become more affordable, plasma cutters are going to be dirt cheap, and then I can get access to one. But it'd be really cool to have one here at the house and make yard signs and just fabricate like art pieces and just do side work and stuff like that.
Yeah, they're fun. Like for me, it's like yesterday. So I do have like 5 jobs right now, but when I do get time to go in the shop, it's really my me time. Like I just feel like it's quiet, and I just get to have fun, be creative, and I got to play with my welder. And I don't know, it's just so much fun. Like I wish I had more time. But like I still enjoy like every moment. Like so tomorrow I got to weld a little bit yesterday, but I actually want to go back, and I have a cool project I want to finish. And I actually got a new jacket too from my friend Smoke, and it's just cool because there's so many new merchandise too. You get to try, and I don't know. I
was going to ask you how you like the Up and Smoke jacket, because they just dropped the female cut edition, which I think is really cool. Their jackets are amazing. So we get them for all of our students. But I think we missed the deadline this year. So I think the next class going forward, we can probably get the female cut. But how are you liking it so far? Like from a female's perspective, because I've noticed that I'm getting a lot more females into the welding program, which I think is freaking awesome. My daughter's 8, so I'm not quite ready to bring her in the shop. I told her probably by age 10. I'll show her how to do some welding and stuff. But I was just wondering from a female's perspective, how you like the jacket so far.
I loved it. I mean, it's funny because when you send me the picture of like what they were thinking it would look like, I was like, it looked like it's pretty cool. But when I saw it in person, Oh my, because I mean, I'll be honest, being a girl, it is hard to find like working clothes. It's really, really hard. Even me, I have like the smallest hand ever. So at Lincoln, I mean, they do have the Jessicom series, and it's cool because they're small. They have the jacket and everything, but I've been wearing the same jacket for 4 years. So I kind of wanted to have like, it's kind of like, I don't have much clothes, but I have a bunch of Lincoln Electric helmet, and I have a bunch, like, this is kind of like my girl side of having a bunch of shoes, but I have a lot of helmet, and it was kind of cool because now I have 2 jackets, and I was so excited to try it yesterday. But I love the way it fit. It's comfortable. It's not too tight. It's easy to work, and it looked good. That's kind of, I mean, I know it sounds kind of funny, but I'm not scared of getting dirty or anything, but I do have my girly side. I like to look like fancy and kind of like that jacket looks so great. You look so good in it, but it's actually worked perfect to work too, because some clothes look good, but they're not comfortable to work.
Right.
And that was great. Like, I was like, you need to do more stuff for girl, because that's great.
That was the hard part about like getting females into the classes. Like, you order the jackets, and then, you know, they get the jackets from like other companies, and they really don't fit. They're kind of big and baggy. Even when you get, it's like, oh, we don't make them that small. And it's like, well, damn, what am I going to do? You know, so now she's wearing something that's a size and a half too big for her. Same thing with the gloves. Like, you try to put, you know, I got to get extra small gloves sometimes. They're like, yeah, we don't make them for kids. And I was like, no. This isn't for kids. This is for, like, you know, a student coming through the program. So I think that market is going to open up a little bit more as, you know, more and more females are starting to get into welding, which is awesome. And I know that I'll catch flack for it. I've said it many times on the show. I think females, especially when it comes to TIG welding, they make better welders, just because the attention to detail, the ability to follow instructions, you know, just being able to work on like intricate parts and stuff. I have a student that I sent her to a company, or, you know, got her hooked up with a company, and they do, I can't really talk about what they do, but they just do some like high advanced government stuff, and it requires, it's like an exotic material. It's very, very thin, and she has to perform all these welds, and she did one weld at the company, or she did a weld test, and they were like, okay, cool, you can do that, and this is perfect. And they just rolled up a big bin, and they're like, here's 6 months worth of work, because none of the guys could do it. And they even tried to automate it with robots, but because of the distortion, you have to be able to see exactly what you're doing. So even with seam tracking, the seam tracking couldn't keep up with the robot, and it was still distorting all the parts and blowing holes and stuff in it. So she performs, and that's what she does, like, all day, every day, is perform these tiny little welds on these parts for them. And it's just, none of the guys have been able to do it.
Yeah, and what's crazy too is, like, being a welder or fabricator, you'll never miss job. I mean, there's so many demand for employee everywhere, and it could even be a welder underwater, or, you know, there's just so many things, so many different things you can do. And there's just, like, where I live right now is just, they're just looking for, every company are looking for welders. So it's a job that you're never going to have a problem finding a job.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what I tell everybody. Like, I started welding at the age of 15, and since I learned how to weld, I've never been without a job. And then, like, when I needed extra money back in the past, my wife would be like, well, why don't you go get some side work? And okay, yeah. So I'll go do some side jobs and stuff. I'll pick up side gigs and knock that out and just make some extra money. So it's, yeah. And more often than not, I'm turning jobs down because, like you, I'm like extremely busy. I've got a lot of other stuff going on.
Yeah, and I think that's what's kind of fun. Just, you know, it's like, that's, a lot of people ask me, like, how did you get where you are in life? And I was like, because I'm nonstop. My brain is nonstop, like, running and trying to look for other stuff to learn. And, like, so a funny thing is, I just bought a gauging system because my boyfriend have a excavation company, and I was so amazed about the bucket, and I was like, it's a big challenge for me. Like, I want to know how to be able to take off a weld and just do it. Like, and I had just been thinking about this all summer, and I'm finally getting the system probably this week or next week. So I actually talked to Isaac, one of my friends in Texas, and he's, in my mind, one of the best.
He was amazing.
And he was actually giving me tricks how I'm gonna use it and how I'm like so excited. Like you have no idea. So for me, it's like there's always something you can learn, and there's always challenge in your life that you can put into your life. So for me, I'm like, this is just my new challenge. Like I want to be good at it, and I want to learn how to do it. And I don't know anybody that does it, so I'm gonna have to watch video and talk to Isaac. and I talked to a class one time at Lincoln, and I was like, the industry of welder and fabricator is just amazing. And I'm not saying that just because I'm a woman, but if I go on Instagram and I see something cool, I mean, most of the time I will message the person and ask them like advice, and even girls with girls, like welder to welder, like I'm referring to Barbie the welder, or I will message them and they will respond right away, and everybody's nice to each other, give advice, and it's just a great industry. And I just love how it's not a competition. We're there, just everybody want to get good, everybody want to learn, and I don't know, I just love it. Like nobody got mean to me, I mean, so far, and everybody's been just great, give me advice. I mean, there's so many welder I can say on Instagram that have been helping me. That I don't remember his name because I have really bad memory, but like I remember I had that job. I could not figure out how I would cut the aluminum to be able to have a good penetration, and I was sending him picture, and he was just giving me step to step to be able to have that great result. And he just made my day. I mean, I was so nervous because I was like, I'm not gonna get it done, and just from Instagram, like he just make it work. And I'm so grateful. And I mean, if somebody message me, I will respond and I will give advice, because I had so many people give me advice, and I feel like if I can give back, I guess it's the best thing.
Yeah, the welding community on Instagram is unlike any other community I've ever seen. Everybody's so helpful, willing to share the information, answer their DMs and stuff. I will give you a word of caution: stay off of the Facebook side, because the welding community on Facebook side, they don't play well with others.
Okay.
I don't know. The people on the Facebook, it's just a different dynamic, a different type of people. So if you post a weld over on Facebook, like people just bag on you. But if you post the same weld on Instagram, people are like, oh yeah, man, that looks great, but you might want to consider, turning up your heat or doing this, that, and everything. But Facebook, that's like undercut city. It's full of the keyboard CWIs. It's just not a friendly place. So I try to stay on Instagram as much as possible, because it's a better community. People are all about building each other up. That's why I hang out over there and talk to people. And I get messages all the time from people. Hey man, I know you're super busy, but can you take a look at this weld and see what I'm doing wrong? And it's like, yeah, do this, that, and the other thing. Here's some different resources you can look up. It's just a really great place. And I've met some really cool people over on the Instagram side. And then when you get to meet them in real world, it's even, cooler.
Yeah, I mean, I have to say, when I first started, I really started from scratch, and Joel from Overkill helped me so much. And every time I had question, I'm like, oh, I'm gonna do this, and I would send him a picture, and he I mean, even the girls, they're just amazing. Even with the Torchmate table, sometimes I'm like, okay, I have this. I like thickness, but I want this to be perfect. And I would just message somebody that have a table like me, and I'm like, hey, what is your setting? Because everybody know you could be a great welder, but the setting is everything. Mm-hmm. The setting have to be right, and it'll make the huge difference. So yeah, it definitely helps when people share advice and they help you. I mean, there's so much demand. I don't see it as a competition. I see there's job for everybody.
Yeah, there's enough room for everybody.
Exactly.
So what's on the schedule for 2021 for Cynthia?
Yeah, so hopefully I get to compete with Monster Jam again. They're still in the competition right now, but the fact that I'm in Canada is make everything a little bit more complicated. So hopefully the COVID kind of slow down and I get to go back to the United States. But so that's definitely one of my projects. But after that, I mean, right now I have my TV show. I have a motorsport TV show. It's been running for 4 years. So I get to test drive boat, motorcycle, ATV. It's kind of a cool job. I get to test drive all kind of cool vehicle. So that's still running. I'm actually I'm doing accounting a little bit because that's my first job. I'm actually a CPA, so I do accounting a little bit on the side. I have my welding job that I have some client that I keep that they want me to do their projects. So, but I usually do more for welding. I do more my personal project most of the time, but I do have customer. And I actually do flooring for boat now. It's a new thing. It's a company from Florida. It's CDEC. It's kind of cool because it's a different thing I never done. I actually do go scan the boat flooring and I do the installation. So it's a new challenge for me because Monster Jam is not starting. So I'm doing that for the moment. So I'm keeping myself pretty busy.
Okay. No, that's pretty neat. And then where can everybody find you on your different media outlets?
So I have a website, but most of the time it's Instagram. I mean, Instagram is the easiest place you can talk to me, ask me a question, or even share a project. Cynthia Gauthier. Facebook, same thing. And my website is cynthiagauthier.com. So it's pretty easy. And my page of my welding, it's a pin metal up. So I post all my project and I'm trying to post like the most that I can, but I feel like sometimes when you're in your project, you don't think about using your phone, taking picture. You're just in your head, so I'm trying to show people kind of like my journey of my welding and stuff. People love it, and I love to watch people doing stuff too. So I love how everybody share like video of the step of the project, so you see it from the beginning to the end. I'm trying to do a little video. I have a YouTube channel that I post a couple little videos. So yeah, I'm keeping myself pretty busy, I have to say, but the gouging is really my next thing. Like I have a lot of demand of welding, but at like certain spots. So I'm actually getting like a welder that I will be able to bring to like jobs. So it's actually like so I'll have the gouging and I'll have the generator. I'm not saying too much because I'll post it like pretty soon when I'm going to get it. I'll be able to like show how I'm going to learn how to use it and everything. But yeah, I'm pretty excited about that. Okay.
Yeah. Gouging's pretty fun. I like that's, it's definitely a skill that, requires some finesse to it. So I think you'll do fine with it, because you can actually it seems like it's pretty sloppy and archaic, but you can get pretty precise. I mean, you can do like precision type work with carbon arc cutting and gouging. It's ridiculous. Every time I show the students, we'll start off on like a T-joint with like a 3/8 weld on there, and I'll show them, look, you can cut it out, and look, like there's the base metal. There's what we started with. So I mean, you can cut it out to a pretty high degree of proficiency.
Yeah, I guess Isaac told me like be ready because it's a little bit loud.
Yeah.
But he said you'll have so much fun, and like I'm amazed just by his video and everything he does. So I'm super excited about doing it, and be able to weld such a big thickness. Mm-hmm. So I'm pretty excited. I know I need a lot of power. That's why I'm getting like the new machine, because my welder is probably not strong enough for something that thick. So I'm excited. Like it's gonna be a new project for me, and it's I'm gonna be able to share it with people too, because gouging is not something you see much. Like I watch video, you don't see a lot of video about it. You don't like. I was trying to learn by myself before I get it, but it's not that easy.
Yeah, no, there's definitely some tricks to it.
Well, yeah. They are.
Well, awesome. I want to thank you for your time. Thank you for coming out and being on the podcast and agreeing to do this. It's really cool to be able to talk to somebody as famous as you are, especially since I'm like a huge fan of Monster Jam. And like every time you guys come to Orlando, I take my kids with me now. They have a blast. So it's really great talking to you.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. And I watch out, because like I'm going to post pretty soon, like video of all my new machine from Lincoln. And I'm super excited for trying it. And the gouging thing, I think it's going to be pretty cool video.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, thanks for stopping by and listening to today's episode. Make sure to check out arcjunkies.com, where you'll find a full list of episodes, a list of show sponsors, and a link to all the great Arc Junkies merchandise. Whether it's a hat, shirt, or hoodie, you can help support the show with Arc Junkies merchandise. All orders will receive a free Arc Junkie sticker pack. Be sure to tune in each week for a new episode. Upcoming this month, I'll be talking to Chloe Hudson, Nick Bazatis, and Pedraic Bean. Each of them have a great story about their welding journey. Stay safe out there, and until next time, make every weld better than your last.